nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad.
Azazel's goats who skulk around men won't be seen tonight, so I can make this disgusting topic into a video. Sorry to throw in the levity, but this is going to make some people queasy. If you're still smiling in a minute, you need help.
start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap. These little town blues are melting away. I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York. In a city that never sleeps and find I'm a #1, top of the list, king of the hill, a #1. These little town blues start of it in old New York. And if I can make it there, I'm gonna make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York.
Well, TV thing. And what is the TV thing that we've been doing together? First off, I want to ask you about that.
Well, I think I met you a couple of years ago, Bo, and I was just enamored with your story.
Yeah.
You are the one tough cop.
Oh, come on. It's about you now.
No. It's always about you. Listen, we like to look at crimes and try and figure out whether or not the investigations have been botched in some instances. We like to look at crimes that may not have been solved and try and find a resolution for the victims of these crimes. And we also like to take a look at crimes that have been headline generators and try and piece together what's happened to those crimes in time. We always know about these crimes through the mass media and we talk about them, but those crimes tend to live on, don't they?
You're like a friggin' detective. I mean, you were never on the NYPD, but to me, you're a great detective because doing a few shows with you. Matter of fact, we're going to be flying together to Medellin. What's that place called?
Medellin. Colombia.
Yeah, Colombia. Not the District of Columbia, the country of Colombia. We're going to be, what are we doing down here again?
We are going shortly. We are going down there to do a show called Notorious Crime Lords, which is investigating El Chapo versus Pablo Escobar and who really was the bigger of the two drug lords. So in order for us to do that, Carlos...
Well, the other guy was taller. Escobar was taller than Munchie Tation.
I'm talking more about perhaps volume of... but Carlo, I've got to take him down to Medellin. How do you think he'll cope?
I mean, I love Medellin.
You look for other reasons, Carlo. I'm not going there for your reasons, Carlo.
I just came back from Cartagena.
Cartagena is beautiful.
That's a beautiful place.
Beautiful city, right on the ocean.
Whoa. I'm a detective. I don't think about those other things you guys think about. I'm thinking about what we're going to do there. We're going to be
the architecture. It's a very colonial style.
we're going to be talking to Pablo Escobar people.
We are. We're going to be talking to people that knew him, that were involved in the cartel that he operated.
We're bringing down my friend, my really dear friend, Bernard Kerrick, the former commissioner, who Bola loves. He got a bad little rap there, but
and Dylan Howard loves too.
Well, also Dylan Howard loves it too. But we got to bring it back a little bit. First of all, I met Dylan. I have a very dear friend for 25 years, and I'll say it out loud. He's one of my dear friends, and his name is David Pecker. He used to head up AMI. Is he still over there with us?
He still is.
He's doing a transfer. It was sold, but David Pecker is truly a personal friend of mine. He put together some empire. I mean, magazines, circulation, 22 million circulation?
Yeah, I mean, the business spawns multiple print products in the celebrity and entertainment category, the active lifestyle category of men's and then muscle and fitness. And he recently purchased a company called the Adventure Sports Network, which has enthusiast magazines such as Powder and Surfer and things like that, live events. It's American Media is one of the largest publishers in America.
You know what it is with the advent of all this social shit that's online and all that crap. You have to revert it over to meet up with the demands of the idiots that walk around with their little cell phones like you do sometimes, Carlo. And all they do is look on their cell phones, including my kids. I think the phones are glued to their friggin' heads. I personally like to pick it up. I like to look at it. I like to feel, touch the magazine.
There is a romance about
I don't know.
Traditional journalism.
Getting that ink on your hands and you're at the beach. I like reading. I like looking at pictures. You know, sometimes your little device, the sun is brooming down. But if you're looking at a paper product, I like to open up the New York Post, even though the Post don't like me anymore because of some reason I don't know. I like to feely touchy. I don't like to read the news on the little
on the
thing.
screen. You like
but you know what? So American Media, my friend David Pecker was really responsible for developing it. And years ago, the first time I did anything, I don't think you were there yet.
I've read it. I remember
They actually sent me to Boulder, Colorado. I actually went into the house where JonBenet was killed.
Really?
And there was two college kids that were renting it. And I went there, and I had my own determination, which I can't talk about because I think I could get sued. I have my own opinions about the JonBenet.
I'll have to be the bleep.
Yeah, you'll be the bleeper. So, Carla, you know, I've been a detective my whole life, and there's some contributing factors that give me my feelings about it, and just the advent of what happened when your little daughter is murdered. You get on a plane, you fly away the next day. A lot of things weren't right, so I have my own opinions about who, what, where. But I can't bring it up because somebody got sued for a lot of money for giving their opinions.
And I keep telling you not to.
Okay, I'm not going to.
I'm not a lawyer, but I keep telling you not to.
But personally, they actually sent me out to Boulder, Colorado, where I actually went into the home there. I actually looked at all the autopsy report, and I got a feeling sitting in front of the house for many hours reading autopsy report. And you got to say something. I got to say something. I have something which a lot of people don't have, this sixth sense about the feelings that lead into real evidence. They have to develop the evidence and all that. And my feelings are, we'll maybe revisit this another time.
But I wanted to say something about that because I just actually came back from Paris and London.
Yeah.
I spent 2 weeks there. I'm working on a podcast with regards to the death of Princess Diana. And there is a lot to be said about going to the scene of a crime.
Oh, you got to feel it.
You've got to feel it. And I was blown away to go to the tunnel where she died. Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this question before I get into that. what do you think caused Princess Diana's car accident?
Well, I think it was the driver was trying to get away from the paparazzi, and he went into non-prudent speeds that he couldn't control the vehicle. Advent of the accident. That's my. And I really, honestly, didn't look at it deep enough to know any other contributing factors. I know there's a lot of conspiracy thoughts involved with this, but my feelings are, until I look at the whole picture, that's just a surface shot, a snapshot of my feelings is that they were trying to get away from paparazzi and they lost control of the car. That was my feeling.
So I spent 2 weeks in Paris, spoke to eyewitnesses still some 22 years ago who remember that night vividly in 1997. Believe it or not, if you actually go to the tunnel, you can still see marks on the side of the tunnel, the concrete pylons where the Mercedes-Benz that she was in collided. You can actually see the steel, the scrapings in the steel rim. And through forensic tests that we did on location in Paris, we're able to disprove a lot of these conspiracy theories.
Really? Well, you should have brought in a real detective like me.
Well, I had a detective. I did have a detective with me, a gentleman by the name of Colin McLaren, who is an Australian homicide detective, which is not as good as America.
Murders in Australia. Come on.
They do have murders. This guy went undercover in the mafia.
You talk about an NYPD homicide detective.
Anyway,
greatest in the world.
Greatest in the world. I know. I apologize. Don't take offense. I like all homicide detectives, provided they're not investigating me.
I just felt a little bad, Carlo. He didn't ask me to come over there. He brought one of his mates over there. Did you know I went to Australia once in my life?
Really?
Whereabouts?
A place called Melbourne.
That's where I'm from.
Now, I'll tell you a story.
I want to hear this story.
It's about you, this podcast. So I get a call from a person, major guy in finance. He gets involved with some beautiful gal from Melbourne in London, and he's having an affair. She's married. He's married, 3 kids. All of a sudden, the girl and her husband start to blackmail him. That they're going to notify the bank, they're going to notify his family. So unless you give this money, blackmail, back and forth. So I get involved. I bring John Q. Kelly, my friend, the great lawyer, involved. He's a great lawyer, but he's not a good detective. He hires me for that. But he's an excellent lawyer. So now we get in communication with a lawyer that represents this crew out of Melbourne. Now, I never realized Melbourne has a little crime element there. You have like Lebanese guys with tattoos up their necks.
A lot of Italians in Australia.
Yeah.
More than there was a gangland war when I was living there.
So now I tell John Q. Kelly, he flies out ahead of me. I'm going to go to Melbourne to meet with these guys.
You just load up the private jet out of Teterboro.
This lawyer, no, this was I went with that Qantas stuff. So all of a sudden, John flies out ahead of me. That was the worst thing he did. And he met with this lawyer, told him, well, I got a group out there that can help you out, can solve this problem. So John meets with him, and they tell John, $500,000, you'll never see this guy again. So John, I'm in L.A. now. I'll get you my next leg of the flight. John's there already. He goes, don't worry about it. I handle this. I said, John, they just said to you, they're going to give you $500,000 and you'll never see this guy. You know what that means? They're going to whack the freaking guy, John. I said, go to your room, lock your door, put a chair there. I'll be out in another 14 hours. Do not answer the door. Do not communicate anymore. So I get to the hotel. I knock on the door. He's got the chair against the door. She goes, oh, we have a meeting with these guys at 6 o'clock. I said, good, because we're catching them next flight out. The next flight out, I think, was 8, 9 o'clock. So I go with him. I'm dressed in a suit, and we go to meet these guys at the back of a bar. And I don't remember exactly, but I had the town car outside, the black car that we were in. I said, you just stay right here. So now I walk in the back. We see his table. There's about 8 guys with tattoos, big muscles, and I mean real bad-looking asses. So next thing is I go like this. I says, yeah, how you doing, guys? The one guy goes, wait, mate. Fox News. I says, yeah, forget about that. You're that detective from New York? I can't believe Melbourne, Australia knew who I was. Yeah, I said, forget about that bullshit. I said, this guy here met with you yesterday? First of all, he's got no power. Anything he says, do they spell over, O-V-E-R, here in Australia? Because whatever he told you, it's over. There's no deal, there's no money, and it's over. And I just turned around, and I'm with John. I said, don't turn around. Just keep walking. I went in there so fast, these guys didn't even have time to pull their guns or react. Got in the car, get back to the hotel. Got to the hotel, the phones are ringing. Get to the airport, we're running through to make the flight. I had to get a couple of koala bears and stuff and kangaroos for the kids. You know, I'm running through the airport. We missed the flight. I show my badge. We got to make the flight. We get on the plane on the Qantas first class. I put my green pajamas on, and I had a couple of drinks. Pop, what are those things that make you go to sleep?
Xanax?
I popped the Xanax. No, the other one.
Ativan? Valium?
Not Valium. Yeah, whatever the hell it was, to make me go to sleep. I woke up and I was in Los Angeles. The moral of the story is that you can solve things, and when you go in person. But here was the end result. We ended up suing civilly the guy and criminally for blackmail, and it went away and all that. But that was my one visit to Melbourne. I think I was in Melbourne for 6 hours. So that's my only contact
you had a good
with Australia.
result.
Well, the good result was I stifled John Quinn Kelly out. I said, look, I'm the detective, you're the lawyer. And that was my only involvement in Australia.
So back to Diana.
Yeah.
Yeah, just back to Diana.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is everyone thinks that the paparazzi was right behind the Mercedes-Benz. These were paparazzos on motorcycles that were like 50 cc's. So there's no way they could keep up with a Mercedes travelling at 200 miles per hour.
That's the speed they asked.
Yeah. And so she's gone careering into the 13th pylon. But what caused her to go into that? This podcast that we're releasing in September will reveal for the very first time that she had a collision with another vehicle, a vehicle that was entering through a slip lane. And we spoke to this person.
What's a slip line?
Like a merging lane.
Okay, good.
He was driving a white Fiat Uno, this driver, a gentleman by the name of Lee Van Tan. And I went to his house and I said, you've got questions to answer. And he spoke for the first time in 22 years.
Wow.
About what happened that night. And can you believe this? He was driving a white Fiat Uno. He collided with the Mercedes-Benz. That night, he spray painted his car red.
So he knew that he did something wrong.
A little cover-up.
Smashing wide open a 22-year cover-up.
Wow.
Bo.
I got to listen to this podcast. How exciting is that? Wow. Well, that's what you're all about, Dylan. You're all about finding the stuff and uncover stuff that wasn't out there. Now, how did you let's back up a little bit, Dylan. How did you get involved with journalism in Australia?
I started my career as a sports reporter covering local football, Australian football.
You mean soccer?
No, Australian football. It's a cross between rugby and Gaelic football.
Oh, full contact.
Like full contact. None of this where you wear pads and helmets bullshit that you guys do here in America.
Ooh, that sounds like a
body on body. That's what it is.
No teeth on these guys.
Well, I've got teeth and I played, but I do have a couple of scars. I've got a big one on my elbow. I've got one under here. I've got one under here. It's a pretty dangerous sport, nevertheless. I was covering local football, and I've always had a scent for scandal, Bo.
Yeah.
I love trying to uncover the stories that people don't want you to write about, and I don't give a shit whether people like me or not as a result of the journalism that I practice. So I was covering this epidemic of violence that was happening on the football field in Australia, and my career progressed from working for Murdoch at his paper called the Geelong Advertiser.
You're good friends with
Never
Mr.
met
Murdoch?
him once before. Never met him once in my life.
Oh.
But I worked for his paper called the Geelong Advertiser. I went to cover sport. Then I decided I wanted to work in television. Moved to Tasmania, that tiny little island.
Tasmanian devil collar.
Yeah, tiny little island. Started covering politics and police. Then moved back to Melbourne, where I worked back covering sport. Then I got unceremoniously fired because, yet again, I did a scandalous story that pissed people off about drug use at a professional sports club at the Australian Football League. We, as a network, were the broadcaster of the sport. So there was a lot of corporate pressure for a scapegoat, and I was that scapegoat. So I got fired, and I said, screw it, and I moved to America.
So how did you end up meeting with David?
So I was working for Reuters in Times Square here in New York.
Yeah.
And at the time, there was an editor of the National Enquirer. I was freelancing, doing some investigations for them. And they said, do you want to run this website called Radar Online? And I said, absolutely not.
What year is this?
This is 2009. And I said, absolutely not. I have no interest in celebrity journalism. Zero. I was then sent to Turkey for an Australian magazine to hunt down the professional golfer Greg Norman, who had just divorced Chris Evert, the tennis player.
Yes, I remember.
And the magazine in Australia wanted me to keep an eye on Greg Norman's actions and habits and behaviours in Turkey. And I said, on my way back from Turkey, I'll stop off in LA and go to the Radar Online office. And I walked in, and it was a hub of activity. It was a newsroom like I'd never seen before.
Who owned it at that time?
David Pecker.
Oh, David had it.
Yes, yep. It was a hub of activity, and there was 40 or 50 journalists, and I said, this is where I want to be.
Action. You saw action.
I saw action, and I stayed there. I had my place in New York. I flew back one weekend, boxed it all up, moved out to LA, and spent 3 or 4 years out there.
Well, but obviously you were the shining diamond there because you elevated yourself up to a position was you were the man running AMI.
Yeah, well, I mean, listen, our goal as journalists are to shine light on dark places, to provide the audience, whether it's on a podcast.
It's all entertainment.
Whether it's a podcast, whether it's a television show, whether it's a magazine, whether it's digital, provide them an insight into the gilded life of those that they follow. And entertainment journalism can get a bit of a bad rap, right?
Oh, of course.
A lot of people don't like it. People tend to snub their nose at it. But let me tell you this.
But everybody watches it.
Everyone
Everybody
watches
follows
it. Everyone consumes it. And it wouldn't
that's
exist.
why they have on the major channels at 7 o'clock or 7:30, Entertainment Tonight, Entertainment this, and it's all about dirt and did you hear about this? And people tune into it. So it's an interest factor to America. It loves this nonsense.
They love and hate
there is a demand to meet, and we meet that appetite. But in the course of entertainment journalism, you uncover some big, meaningful stories.
You had one with that guy Mel Gibson. What was that?
Yeah,
about?
I got the audio tapes of Mel Gibson.
What happened with that? What was it? Bring the audience in.
So Mel Gibson, as everyone knows, was pulled over in Malibu, I think a couple of years before I got the audio tapes, and I think he called a police officer sugar tits.
Sugar tits.
Yes, and that was a big controversy at the time.
What's wrong with sugar tits? That's
Well,
sweet talk.
I don't think it was. I think that was quite the headline at the time. TMZ broke that story. A couple of years later, I get this random phone call. It's a great story. And this guy says, I've got these audio tapes of Mel Gibson screaming and ranting, anti-Semitic rants, threatening to kill Oksana Grigorieva, his then fiancée and baby mama, on a rampage, on a tear.
He was a bit of an alcoholic, yes.
And this source wouldn't give the tapes to me and was always calling from a blocked number. He would call at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning. And I remember vividly, I was living at a place called Pally House, which is a hotel in LA at the time. And he would call in the middle of the night and play me little snippets. And I was reporting about the existence of the tapes because it was quite clear that it was Mel Gibson on the tapes. And it started to make national news that these tapes existed, but we didn't get our hands on the tapes.
The actual tapes.
One night.
Were you recording it when he was playing the tape?
I think California is a two-party consent
Very good. I was testing
state,
you.
Bo, so I don't think I
testing
was
you.
recording that.
I test you on that one. Good. You know what that means, right, Carlo?
I certainly do.
Okay.
Both parties have to know.
Exactly. So I wouldn't have been recording those, Bo. But he accidentally called me from an unblocked number one night, realised what he'd done, shit himself. I didn't call it back. I waited till the next day, got his phone number,
Did
reversed
reverse
it,
calls, yeah.
found out where he lived,
He's a
turned
detective,
up,
too. You know that.
knocked on the door, unmasked the source. Source realised he was in a bind. I knew who he was. I knew his connection to the story.
Wow.
He knew that I wanted the tapes. And I walked away and did a deal with him and got those tapes. And those were, I think there was 9 audio tapes. And We published the first one on a Friday afternoon, literally within hours of getting those audio recordings. And we were at on Wilshire Boulevard at the time in a high-rise building, and you could see Hollywood reverberate once that first tape went out because, you know, he was slamming Jews, he was racist, he was swearing, he was misogynistic, he was everything that many people expected Mel Gibson to be, but we heard it for the first time.
Yeah.
And things like that need to be exposed. Just like Charlie Sheen, when we report, I actually worked on an investigation into Charlie Sheen for 3 years.
Wow.
And I knew that he was HIV positive. And I called my top staff into a news meeting and I said, let's take a vote. Do we publish this story that Charlie Sheen, after being fired from 2.5 Men, has HIV? There were 7 people in the room and the vote was 6-1.
Yes.
6 yes, 1 no. I was the dissenting voice. I said, we don't publish the story. Who cares if the guy's got HIV? It's not in the public's interest. And as the boss, even though I lost the vote, I said, this ain't a democracy. It's my decision. Well. But over the next 2 years, I discovered what I considered to be a criminal conspiracy in which Charlie Sheen would have unprotected sex.
With women, yeah.
With women, men, and transsexuals.
Men too?
Which we've published.
What's a transsexual? Is that like trisexual?
It's a man that decides to become a woman or a woman decides to become a man.
Do they still have a thing?
It's a very complicated.
Oh, I don't know.
We'll probably get in trouble for not understanding the right pronouns and the such. So what happened was we spent 2 years standing up that Sheen was orchestrating this conspiracy whereby, say, Bo, he wanted to have sex with you, you'd turn up at his house, you would have to sign a non-disclosure agreement that prevented you from being able to sue him in any case. You didn't know he had HIV, you had sex with him, you later found out that he had HIV, you could have been exposed to the HIV, but you couldn't sue him. Because you'd signed this contract.
I don't know. And then it goes, really that enforceable? I don't know.
And then it would go to mediation and these people would get payoffs.
Right.
So once we established that there was this systematic...
people were suing him when they learned it.
Yeah.
And he was paying them
And there was this systematic plan in place to avoid the news getting out. That's when I said we have to publish this story. And he denied that he had HIV. His lawyer was...
They sued you, right?
No. No, they did sue me eventually, but not on that, and he dropped his lawsuit.
Yeah, because then if it was my lawyer, I'd say, well, request a blood test.
So they never sued over HIV. In fact, Charlie gave me an interview directly after it, but they lied through their teeth for years. I like some lawyers, I like. Other lawyers, I think they're paid liars.
Oh, well, we know that. We know that. I mean, it's good to have a good paid liar on your side because it's all about winning, and that's why they're hired. And even you get a scumbag like my friend Harvey Weinstein, he's gone through every lawyer, including that little creep Ben Brofman, and he's gone. Now he fired this.
You're not a fan of Ben Brofman?
No, you know,
I've
given him so many cases. I've given him Puff Daddy, Jay-Z, Bell Weiss. He's made millions of dollars off my ass, and he never ever gave us any investigative work. And after that, I don't like the guy. Then when he was coming out talking about Harvey Weinstein being this good person, and he has daughters too, and I called him up and I said, you know what, you're a fucking creep for defending this prick. Would you let your daughters work for this slime bag?
But let's put it in perspective. And you know, you and I both knew Harvey, but we had no idea the breadth of what was going on.
I did because I almost punched him out once.
I had no idea.
We were going to do it. You know, I'm condescending side of him, not just the sexual side of him. I'm talking about him being condescending to men. Say if we were going to do a TV series, you and I were going to produce one, he gets very indignant and he becomes very condescending. Like he said, I was at a breakfast meeting and he goes like this, you know, Bo, I want to do this with you. You want to do it with Scorsese? I'll ruin you in Hollywood. You'll never do it. I said, I'll reach across this table and punch you in your fucking mouth right now. I wasn't kidding. He goes, "You threatening me?" I said, "Listen, this ain't a movie. I'll bust your fucking ass." And that's exactly how I talked to Harvey Weinstein, because he's a punk and he belittled a lot of men and women in Hollywood.
Oh, listen, I watched how he interacted with individuals, and it was certainly not how I would interact
He's
with
a punk.
individuals.
And you know he's a punk because no one smacked him in the head, and that's what he needed, was a good smack in the head.
But what really annoys me and pisses me off is that anyone that had an association with him, and everyone in the entertainment industry did, was immediately tarred when the allegations came out, and the liberal media was desperate to try and pin anything on anybody that was associated with him. And because he and I had produced hours and hours and hours of television, all of a sudden I was linked to Harvey Weinstein.
Yeah, well-
and the liberal media decided that I became a target. I should become a target.
Well, it was simple. When I ran for mayor of New York City, and then all of a sudden my firm was hired by Becca Epstein, which is a major law firm, for the O'Reilly investigation and the Gretchen Carlson thing. My firm was hired. Everyone has the opportunity and right for a defense. My company does defense work. Same thing if you became a victim, a target of a lawsuit, your law firm hires. We get directed by the lawyers from the law firm. Now, I go back with Roger Ailes, God rest his soul. I didn't know all about what was going on with all these things. And because I'm a private investigator, that creep, what was his name? New York
Gabriel
Magazine.
Sherman.
Gabriel Sherman, that little punk. He writes a thing with his book about Bo Dietl was head of all dark black operations, 17th floor. I never, ever, I call him up. I say, "Hey, Gabriel, let me tell you once. First of all, I'm a private investigator. If I put you under surveillance, kiss my ass. I'm going to tell you once. I never surveilled you. I never did any work for Roger Ailes other than my firm working for the law firm on these investigations, which is my business. And you put in there that I was following you and your wife for Roger Ailes." I said, "Maybe your wife's friggin' boyfriend was following you." And I said, "You punk." I said, "If you put it in there, I'm going to look at libel and slander." I never did anything. But yet it came in the New York Times. And they put it in print. Bo Dietl was the private investigator working for Roger Ailes. I never, ever worked for Roger Ailes. But I can, and then your friends, the Murdochs, they drink the Kool-Aid, and I was never allowed to go back on Fox because of that.
You know, it's. I think the country has become so divided that so too has the media. And there is very much today a left and a right.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of people don't really understand that you can work for a publication that might well be positioned slightly right and not be right yourself and be a liberal. No one knows my political allegiance, and I've kept it that way since I've been to America. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't vote in this country.
It's like the FBI. I mean, when the FBI heads come out to be in collusion against Trump, whether you like Donald Trump or not, I know him 40 years. I think he says some fibs. He's a narcissist, but he's leading our country for, that's my opinion. But you as an FBI agent, the policing of this country, you should not take sides in it. You got to do your job the way you're supposed to. If you have affidavit for a warrant to go and infringe on someone's rights, that warrant better be correct. And if that warrant is not, and when you're overheard talking about insurance policy, I mean, it gets my insides. The FBI are like the police. You are not political. You do your job and you let the law abide your job. And it pisses me off because there's so many fine FBI agents that are tainted by these couple of creeps in there,
I think the media, to a large extent, also is tainted. To your point, Gabe Sherman may be, misleading the truth about
me,
about the work that you did for Fox over the course of the years. I think someone from the New York Times once called me Harvey Weinstein's chief media enabler. Like, what sort of a sick comment is that?
Well,
that makes the perception that I was somehow complicit in whatever actions he was involved in. Of course I wasn't. It's just absolute frog shit.
Well, they
get away with it.
And they get away with it. And then, what really upsets me is, look, I was a Fox News contributor, paid contributor solely for Fox for 12 years. As far as whatever it is, Sean Hannity's one of my dearest friends. I like Bill O'Reilly and these were my friends. But as far as what I did on there, I was a person that looked at both sides of it. I always look at both sides. I weigh it out.
You have
and I've
to.
become, as I gotten older, I've become more compassionate rather than the other side. And you got to weigh things out. You can't go in there because I like Donald Trump, what he's doing in the country. Right away, I can't go around with a bumper sticker saying Trump. My windows will be broken in New York City. Then when you look at the news, when the good things are happening, jobs, employment, everything, the economy, and you could turn on every channel. No one says anything. The only place you see it is Fox. That's wrong also. The news should be a vehicle for giving information, not your opinions.
I don't think there's any proportionality whatsoever in the coverage of these well thought of and must be discussed topics like Me Too, but there's no proportionality into it.
You mentioned Me Too, and you mentioned, how you were caught up in, being tainted by your association with Harvey Weinstein. And you've also spoken previously about your integrity and, how you, didn't want to disclose Charlie Sheen's private medical records and things like that. And when you talk about the hype of media and Me Too, where do you think it went wrong? Where do you think, now it seems like people are just going after another scalp to collect rather than just
it's about how many heads you can get. Media outlets, some media outlets and a number of journalists exist for that purpose and that purpose only. And that is to try and bring down people. Now, there are people that should be brought down. Jeffrey Epstein, a good example this week, about how someone abused his position, abused his wealth and fortune to be able to do heinous things on innocent victims. He will be held to account. But again, there is no proportionality in the debate. And I think that the media has become a less objective, more subjective, the mainstream media. I'm talking about many outlets. And there is this dogged determination to try and bring people down.
Like you mentioned,
Tall poppy syndrome.
Jeffrey Epstein is a true criminal, and he's lumped in the same category as somebody like Louis C.K. There is no proportionality.
Or me.
No, and there's rape also. There's rape allegation against Epstein, and that wasn't some of the other allegations. The important thing people have to realize is that.
But we'll never win this debate, though.
No.
So let's put this into perspective. We're three guys sitting around a table on a podcast, and we'll say that there's no proportionality in the debate, and we will get criticised for it. We will never, ever win the debate.
Nope.
You can't even voice an opinion.
You can't voice an opinion without being critical.
What I've gone is I've even gone a step further after being directed that I hate women because I worked for Roger Ailes for the defense of Fox News. I love women. What we put together, I hired the head of the EEOC, the attorney. We have a platform we put together, a secure platform where people can report sexual abuse, harassment, anything to an independent, transparent investigation. We put together a secure website for corporations that we're in now. People can report it because they always would say, "I don't want to report to HR because the HR knows that guy, and I'm up for a promotion." So I actually put together a vehicle where people can show transparency and report things. I love to help people. My whole life has been helping people, and if you're a victim, you come to me, I protect victims. And to be accused on the other side for doing what I do as my profession, that's horrible.
But I think it's also because you're perceived to be right, and therefore the liberal media wants to attack you.
Yes.
And Carlo, this is, it's taken a lot of reflection on my behalf, because when your name is in the news like it is for me and for Bo, it can take its toll on you. But it can also not. It cannot take its toll on you if you realise who you are as a person, what you represent, and you're comfortable living in your own skin. And I know who I am and what I represent to people around me and to my family and friends, and what I do outside of my professional career to help others. And I wake up very comfortable being the person that I am every morning. Others might not.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people, the listening audience, don't know the magnitude of my friend here. Dylan Howard represents a media organization that reaches 68 million people per month with all the vehicles, with radar, all the magazines. And all. This is a massive media platform, and I mean, it's something that is remarkable that you're like, you head this thing up. So when you write an article, I mean, a lot of eyes are on it. I mean, that's a lot of controlling factor, because what they read, they believe. So in reality, you can change. If people see the negative side of it, you can produce it out there with your media, and people can get a different perspective of it rather than getting just one direction of it.
Well, I think that's part of the democracy that we live. That's part of the First Amendment. People should be able to get a variety of opinions, a variety of news articles, and if we didn't have that, we wouldn't exist.
We'd be communist. Then.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, you've done a lot of documentaries and all kinds of TV shows. What's some of the projects you worked on, and what's coming in for the future?
A lot. I mentioned the Princess Diana podcast. I also have a podcast investigating Marilyn Monroe's death.
Wow.
That's coming out in August.
It's going to talk about the president.
It's going to talk about the Kennedys and their
Robert
involvement.
Kennedy
And
doing
Robert
like
Kennedy.
a double dildo there.
I don't know about that, but
okay.
we're certainly going to look deep into
Deep,
Marilyn's
yeah.
famous red book.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. I'm looking at JFK Jr.'s car crash.
you know, I was-
plane crash.
Well, you hit something. I met JFK Jr. through David Pecker on Thursday nights. I'm up in Rayos there. I'll never forget this young man. What a beautiful young man. He used to come riding up on his bicycle, and he chained his bicycle to the stop sign out front.
Really?
Always pleasantries with John Kennedy Jr. When he went down with that plane, I really felt as though a really big loss, and simply I could have voted for him tomorrow if he'd be president of the United States.
Probably would have been president of the United States.
Yeah, he would have been president.
So we're doing a podcast on JFK
Wow.
Jr. and that crash, and trying to look at a total recap of that particular crash. And then we're doing a podcast on John Benet Ramsey, your popular topic. But I'm more excited about some books I've got coming out.
Well, tell me about him.
I have the Diana book is coming out, Diana Case Solved.
It's a whole book?
It's a book with homicide detective Colin McLaren.
Oh, Colin who?
Colin Who, yes. That book's coming out. I also have a book that I co-authored on a poker ring that ran in Hollywood.
Did they have a movie about that?
That was the inspiration for Molly's Game, which was a complete whitewash.
Really?
A whitewash of the real story and what actually took place. And I've authored a book called The $1 Billion Hollywood Heist, the A-list kingpin and the scam that brought down Tinseltown. And it names names.
What was that about?
So there was a high-stakes poker ring that would operate at the Four Seasons, the Viper Room, and various other hotels, where the buy-in was millions of dollars. And Tobey Maguire, Ben Affleck, Leonardo DiCaprio.
Oh, not my friend Leo.
He was, to be honest with you, I'll tell you something. He was a bad player, and he was only ever brought there to attract other people. So what they would do is they would bring the A-list stars and then get other
Suck 'em
wealthy
in, to
individuals
hang out
to
with
come
them,
in
yeah.
to hang out with them and then fleece them for cash because none of them could play poker. So we exposed this whole scam that was the $1 billion Hollywood heist. That
And the real
book's coming
names,
out.
because Molly's Game, they didn't use any names
No.
for the most
And in
part.
fact,
your
my
book's gonna have the real names.
co-author is someone who played in the game, who is unmasking himself, being involved in the game, and what his role in the game was.
Wow.
And it's going to... Well, it's going to make a few people very nervous. So I've got that book coming
How do you have
out.
time for all this?
I've got a book on John Benet coming out. I have a book on Natalie Wood and the death of Natalie Wood coming out.
I looked at that with you, yeah.
Yeah, I have a book on Charles Manson coming
How
out
do you
soon.
do all these things, Dylan?
I'm a busy guy, but I get it done.
Man, oh man, you got that.
So I was 15 minutes late today.
You're confusing me. Wow, isn't this something remarkable?
It's awesome. I'm looking forward to reading all of them.
So we basically, we do something every week, and we call it Punk of the Week.
We could do Punk of the Day or Punk of the Minute.
What bothers you the most? Could be a person, place, thing, or whatever. What bothers you most, Dylan?
The thing that bothers me the most at the moment is Uber.
Why?
So Uber was a fantastic service. I use it every day. I love it. I want to get a car to go from here to here. But all of a sudden now, what would happen is you could book a car and the next available car would come and get you. People that are already taking an Uber, a driver that already has passengers, is responding now and making my wait time longer. So Uber's my punk of the day.
Wow. What about you, Carlo, today?
What? That sounds very much like a white person's problem, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It
I'm
does.
sorry for the.
I have another one. It's
Take the friggin' subway.
humidity, the heat and humidity. It's killing me this
Oh,
week.
Well,
I think that's worse than mine.
global warming. You think, Carlo?
I don't know what it is. I think it's just July. But
It's July. I remember in the 1950s, before global warming, we used to have these friggin' hot days too. What bothers me is, my congratulations go to those great American ladies, whether they're lesbianic, straight, black, white. I don't care. They're American champions. But to politicize what they did with this thing with the purple hair and to knock the president, why don't we try and use this vehicle to bring everything together? If you don't like what President Trump's doing, what a great vehicle to go to the White House and say, Mr. President, can I talk to you? I don't like this, I don't like that. Use that vehicle to bring us together. I'm tired of divisions in this country. I need to get back together. And my accolades go out to Pelosi, believe it or not. Pelosi, for the fact that she's not taking that crap from these four little communist congresspersons over there. And what she's saying, enough is enough. If you have something to say to me, let's talk about it. But don't be putting it on the Twitter every time something happens. Too much division in this country. I'd love people to come together. You like chocolate, I like vanilla. Let's come together and have this country be the great, bring them together instead of the great divider. That's my punk of the week.
There's a reason why people like me decide to move to America, because it's the land of hope and dreams. But at the moment, it's more divided than it ever has been.
I say that.
And I hope to God that we as a community can start to get along, no matter your colour, your race, your background, your wealth, anything like that.
I totally agree. And how can they find you on the social medias?
They can't. I'm a
An infomaniac, would you say?
I try and avoid social media. I don't want people peeking into my life.
Really? So in other words, but
where can people find your books?
Your books, it's
podcasts?
everything.
The books, they're all going to on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, on all.
They're under you as the author.
Yep. All the books are
Dylan
listed
Howard.
up there. They start being released in August. The podcasts are where all good podcasts can be found.
Where?
Everywhere from Spotify to Apple.
And what's the podcast called?
The podcast for Diana is Princess Diana Case Solved.
Oh, so the podcast devotes itself to one issue.
One element, and then the Diana book is a more wide-reaching exploration of the conspiracy.
How could you find us, Carlo?
You can find us. We're on Twitter. We're at One Tough Podcast on Twitter. Bo is at Bo Deedle on Twitter and at The Real Bo Deedle on Instagram. You can email us. Send us all your emails, onetoughpodcast@gmail.com. We love your questions. We love your suggestions. Keep them coming. Thank you very much to Dylan Howard for
Dylan,
being
thank
here.
you
No,
so
thank
much.
you guys. Great to be here.
All right. We'll see you next week.
All right, thank you.
Only the names have been changed. Only the names have been changed. Here. Only the names have been changed. The story you're about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed. Only the names have been changed. Here, only the names have been changed. The story you're about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed.
Sit down.
Where's Wendy?
Bedroom. But I wouldn't go in there if I were you. Messy. I needed her face.
You killed her?
Actually, I can't kill anyone. Not unless they wish me to. Your research should have told you that.
She didn't wish to be dead, you lying sack of shit!
I showed her my true face. Her reaction wasn't very flattering. As a matter of fact, she got downright hysterical. I merely asked her if she wished to be released from her fear. You're a dangerous person to know, Alexandra. Your scientist friend, your boss, the policeman, Wendy. By the by, where is that tasty little sister of yours today?
If you harm Shannon, I'll kill you.
Spare me, child. Behold my true face.
Oh my god.
Yes, the shit just hit the fan, didn't it? Let's get this over with, shall we? Make your wishes. 3 wishes, Alexandra. Doesn't that intrigue you? Just a little. Anything you want.
Anything?
You ask for anything. I must grant it. A trip to the moon. A visit to Pharaoh's Egypt.
What happened if I wished you dead?
Why, how remarkably original, Alexandra. I'll tell you what. I'll give you 1 free wish. A sample. Get you into the spirit of the game.
All right. I want you to destroy yourself. Blow your brains out. Right now.
Very well. That which is eternal cannot die. But if it's any consolation, sweet Alex, that hurt like hell. Now, make your 3 wishes.
The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed. Only the names have been changed. Here, only the names have been changed. The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed. Only the names have been changed. Here, only the names have been changed. The story you are about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed. Only the names have been changed. Here. Only the names have been changed. The story you're about to hear is true. Only the names have been changed. have been changed.